Nobody in this room, okay, let's be clear. We're not talking about anybody in this room, all right? Are you with me? Yes. Nobody in this room. But there are people out there. There are people out there, and this is just our secret, you promise, just between us? Yes. There are people out there who are getting old. Now, I know that doesn't apply to us, but they're out there somewhere, okay? And they need help. And so to help those people out there, you know, I was thinking some of these things came up. For example, it's like age is something that doesn't matter unless you're a piece of cheese, okay? That's for those people out there. Or the idea is to die young as late as possible, okay, to stay young. Or Betty White. Betty White was a great actress and philosopher, and she said, my mother used to say, the older you get, the better, unless you're a banana. So, for those people out there, and Groucho Marx said, anyone can get old. All you have to do is live long enough. There's a lot of truth to that. The actress Ingrid Bergman said, getting old is like climbing a mountain. You get a little out of breath, but the view is much better. I thought that's pretty good. And finally, no one is as old as those who have outlived enthusiasm. I thought that's pretty good. So, because there are people out there that as they get older, they lose enthusiasm. They lose energy. They seem to lose their purpose. They seem to like, what's it all about? I've, been there, done that, got the bumper sticker. I've done it all. It's time now just to sort of coast. Well, there's a guy and a story. Now, this guy is not unknown, but this story is just like this wide about him. And his name is Caleb. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy, Caleb. Who was he? He is a person in the Bible. Anybody remember what he did? He was with Joshua. Remember, there were 12 spies that were sent into the promised land, and 10 of them went like this, right? No, not for us. Do you know what the taxes are like over there? Do you know what the water systems are like over there? Do you know they got giants over there? All these reasons not to go. Then it was Joshua and Caleb that said, if God's given it to us, then we should go. And there's a phrase that's used about Caleb over and over again about this guy. And it made me think, what would the words be said about me? Or what would it be about you? If somebody were to say, what's a phrase that describes you as a person? Somebody say, well, I'm just I'm very smart. Or, somebody, I really can sing. I guess that's not George. We have these things about us, things we can do, or maybe things we've done. But Caleb, this phrase that's used about him over and over, it says, he followed the Lord. How? What's the difference between following the Lord and following the Lord wholeheartedly? What's the difference between that? Enthusiastically? With everything? No reservations?
You may be a Christian, but not show people you are.
Oh, not show people or tell people. Very good. Yeah. Enthusiastically, wholeheartedly. It's with every fiber of their being in every area of life. Doesn't matter if it's on the pickleball court or you're playing canasta or you're with your family, you're in line waiting and the person in front of you just can't seem to check out. In all of these things, wholeheartedly serve the Lord. This is the thing that's known about him. This is the phrase over and over is used about this guy. And so let's look at this little story. It's just a real little story. In the book of Joshua, it says, yeah, when the people came to Joshua, they're getting ready to, they're in the new, the promised land, and Caleb says to Joshua, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea about you and me. They were the two spies who gave the good report. And how old was he back then? 40. He was 40 when Moses the servant sent them. So that was a while ago. He was 40 years old. He wasn't a newbie. He had grown up in the faith. And now, when back then, they went out, they saw the land, and now here he is later, he says, and I brought back a report. What kind of report did he give?
According to my convictions.
What does it mean to have convictions? Firm belief. What else might convictions be? Rules that you follow. Convictions are what you do and say when no one is looking. Convictions are those things that speak sincerely, that you say what's true. You're not trying to impress. I would suspect, I know I've done this, that we've all said things that try to make people like us. We've said things that, just to sort of smooth it out, or to try to impress people. When you meet, I want them to think pretty nice things about me. So I say things to try to impress them. But he didn't. He said it was his convictions. And he spoke with his convictions, but my fellow Israelites who went up made the people's hearts melt with fear. However, what did he do? He followed the Lord how? There's our phrase, wholeheartedly. Those 10 people gave a report that said, no, let's not go in. And how did the nation respond? Their hearts did what? It says their hearts melt. What does it mean when your heart melts? You're disappointed. You lose strength. You lose focus. You can't go forward anymore because you just say, I just can't do that. We're not strong enough. God's not strong enough. They've lost heart. But he followed. He was bold. He said, God says he's giving us this land, and that's good enough for me. He spoke with a conviction. And he goes on. So, on that day, back then, when he was 40 years old, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever. Why?
Because you have followed the Lord.
Because you have followed the Lord wholeheartedly. When you follow the Lord wholeheartedly, do other people notice? Yeah, Moses noticed. He followed the Lord wholeheartedly, and people see it.
Your light shines.
Your light shines. When you follow the Lord wholeheartedly, you can't hold it in. It's impossible. You can't cover it up. I'm wearing long sleeves today because I don't want you to see what happened. Okay? The other day, somebody came to our house and the dog went bananas. Do you know what I mean when I say the dog goes bananas? Yeah. He's my brother. Yeah. So the dog goes bananas and I got to get the dog, and the dog just slices me to pieces. Don't say all for the dog, say all for me. So I got this thing, but I don't want people to see it. I cover it up. When it came to serving the Lord, Caleb didn't cover it up. He wasn't trying to say, well, that's my spiritual part of my life. That happens on Sunday mornings. and the rest of the time, nah, that's over there. No, it infected all of his life. And people, even Moses sees it. He says, you're a kind of guy that lives wholeheartedly. Which brings the question, what do we live wholeheartedly for? What do you think we live wholeheartedly for? Marriage. Okay, very good. What else? Grandkids. Yeah.
Support ourselves,
Support ourselves. How do you mean that?
to get a job, work, pay
Okay, yeah, okay, very good. Yeah. To live a comfortable life, whatever that is. We find things to cushion ourselves from the pain around us. We put up walls. But Caleb says, I'm going to let it all hang out there. I'm going to let all of it, my whole life, be lived for God. So he has this promise, and now, and he uses this word now. What does now mean?
Present.
Right now, right? Not 2 weeks from now, right? Now. Now means now. Right here, right now. He's saying, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive 45 years since the time. So 40 plus 45 is what?
85.
He's 85. Okay? This guy's on fixed income. Okay? It's been 45 years. So here I am today, 85 years old. How does he describe himself?
Strong.
I'm strong, I'm vigorous, and I'm ready to go to battle. Wow. Doesn't that sound like a good kind of life?
Yes.
A good kind of perspective that says, I'm ready for battle. Now, I don't know about you, but I've lost a step. If I only lost one step. But am I going to retreat? Am I going to pull away from a fight? Am I going to be pushed around? And he says, I'm not going to be pushed around. I'm strong. I've got a sound body, sound mind. He's got great experience. He doesn't take life just as it comes. He goes after it. He's engaging. There was a new study that was released. It came out, article about it, and this is a great title. To live longer, anybody want to live longer? To live longer, pick up the pace of life just 3 minutes a day. One of the subheadings is the health and benefits of hurried chores and chasing toddlers. It's that if you want to have a good life, a healthy life, lead an active life, not sitting around. And there's one of the guys who participated in the study said something very fascinating. This guy, Emmanuel, a professor, says there is something about intensity. There's something about intensity. They say walk. Walking is good, okay? Walking is good. But there's something about being intense about something. Intense activity. To do something and to do it with all your heart. To throw everything into. And you don't have to do it for long periods of time. But there's something about intensity. And to me, it looks like Caleb lived an intense kind of life. He said, I'm vigorous, I'm strong. I'm not going to let life pass me by. So now he says, okay, I've got this land that's been promised to me. Okay, now, here's another now. What? Give it to me. I want it. I'm here to collect. So I'm here right now. How old is he? 85, right? He's ready to start a new chapter in his life. A new chapter. So you yourself heard that the Amalekites were there and the cities were large and fortified. What kind of land is he walking into? It's an occupied land. And these guys aren't pansies. They're strong. Does that frighten him?
No.
No, he says, for the Lord, with the Lord helping me, I will drive them out. With the Lord helping me, I'll drive them out. At 85, he's starting a new chapter. Maybe he's starting a new book. I don't know. But he's not saying, he's not afraid of the future, is he? He says he's actively engaged. He says, there's a promise that God has made, and I'm going to go for it. He gave me that mountain, promised me that mountain 40 years ago. That promise is still good. I'm going after it. And it's in the hill country. So it's not just, these plains, easy to get to. It's got to climb the hills. He's got to go up. The Lord has promised. The Lord is going to help him. Somebody once said, the Lord plus one is a majority. That's the kind of, if you believe that, then you've got that wholehearted kind of life. You're not afraid of a fight. There was a movie called Secondhand Lions where there was a little barroom fight.
You three better get in there and help. Always helps a bad guy. Except what? This is horrible. Can you share? After 40 years, I'm used to it. Stop right now. I figure he needs some mercy.
Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to go participate in a bar fight. But he wasn't going to back down. He wasn't going to back down. Backing down is easy, isn't it? And let me tell you, I'm a passive kind of person. For me, my default is to back down. Because I don't like conflict. You know why I don't like conflict? You get hurt. I grew up with it. I grew up in a very contentious house. After the first date, I bring Marianne over to have dinner. I'm walking out to the car to take her home. She grabs my arm and says, when are they getting the divorce? I said, what do you mean? I said, they were pretty good tonight. No, they were yelling and screaming, and but that's the kind of house I grew up in. I'm a second born, so what do I want? Peace, right? I'm a peacemaker. But if I'm going to love the Lord my God with all my heart, if I'm going to be that wholehearted kind of a person, there will come a time where I need to stand up, and there come a time that we need to fight. So Joshua says, I'm 85 and I'm not afraid of a fight. Good for him. So Joshua blesses Caleb. It's Caleb who's going up. Gives him his inheritance. And why did he do it? Because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel. There's our wholeheartedly word again, isn't it? Wholeheartedly. Is that a word that can be used about you and me? That we'd be wholehearted? That people would see that and say, hey, there's a wholehearted kind of a person. At whatever it is. They're fully committed to it. And when we do, the kind of life we'll live is, I think, the kind of life we want to live. At the end of that same movie, the two old gentlemen die, and there's a scene about their life.
So, the two men from great-grandfather's stories, they really lived?
Yeah. They really lived.
They really lived. Could that be said about you and me? That when people look at us, well, they say, yeah, they really lived. You know, at my dad's funeral, 101, people said, think about all the things he saw, he lived, he experienced. But did he really live? And I ask that question to you and to myself. Are we the kind of people that when they look at us, they say, wow, they really lived? They really lived. Or did they let disappointment grab them by the throat and hold them down? My wife, Marianne, and I have 3 kids. They're in their 40s, and it is highly unlikely we're going to get any grandkids. Okay? Now, for some people, they're like, grandkids are all there are. That's it. And that's okay. Grandkids are a good thing. Grandkids are a good thing. But I think God has said to Mary and I, okay, what are you going to do with the blessing of non-grandkids? You ever think of it like that? And so it's like, we got time. We got money. We got energy. Marianne adopts these kids. There's behind us is a house that has 3 girls. And she's sort of adopted them. One of them comes over all the time. I think she's, she looks at Marianne and sees a best friend. This upcoming week, she's inviting 3 kids from her small group in the children's ministry. 3 girls are coming over to bake and decorate Christmas cookies. You see, she could say, oh, woe is me. But she doesn't. Caleb could have said, oh, woe is me. There was a promise made 45 years ago. It ain't come true. Well, guess what? He didn't. He didn't let that stop him. He said, this is a promise that God has made, and that brings the question to you and to me. What has God promised you? What is it out there that God has said, I want you to do this? This is your mountain to climb. This is your mountain to conquer. And maybe it's time to get started, because there's no time like the present. What does Paul say to the Philippians? We hear this verse all the time. Listen, the verse is great. This is from the Amplified, so patience. I can do all things which he has called me to do through him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill his purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I'm ready for anything through him who infuses me with inner strength and confident peace. Wow. That's a promise from God. Caleb was promised a mountain. We got it all over, Caleb. We got this. In Christ Jesus, all things. But what are we going to do with the things God has given us? Are we going to pout about them? Are we going to just invest them on ourselves for our own pleasure, our own purpose? Or are we going to use them for someone else, for his glory? Or what are we going to do with the blessings? Are we going to pour them on ourselves and use them only for ourselves? Because if we do, we're like this scene from The Crown where Queen Elizabeth is talking to Prince Charles.
No, you are not suffering. We're all suffering having to put up with this. Let me make something clear. When people look at you and Diana, they see two privileged young people who, through good fortune, have ended up with everything one could dream of in life. No one, not a single breathing living soul anywhere, sees cause for suffering.
They would if they knew.
Knew what? They know that you betray your wife and make no attempt to hide it. They know that thanks to you, she has psychological problems and eats or doesn't eat, or whatever it is she does or doesn't do. They know that you are a spoilt, immature man, endlessly complaining, unnecessarily. Married to a spoilt, immature woman, endlessly complaining, unnecessarily. And we are all heartily sick of it. All anyone wants is for the pair of you to pull yourselves together. Stop making spectacles of yourselves. And make this marriage and your enormously privileged positions in life work.
And if I want to separate?
You will not separate or divorce or let the side down in any way. And if one day you expect to be king...
I do.
Then might I suggest you start to behave like one.
She pulled out all the guns on him. He was, what kind of guy was he? Spoiled. Immature. Wanted things just for himself. I know that doesn't speak to anybody around here or anybody in the Christian community. It's time that we get busy. We say we want to be kings and queens, but are we ready to take up the mantle, the responsibility that goes along with that? There's a lot of responsibility. You know, are we going to act with selfishness and arrogance with everything that God has given us in Christ Jesus? Or are we going to be his servants, the servants of all? Because when we do, we can be like Steph Curry. Steph Curry's a basketball player, and his coach, just looking at his life, you know, seeing the kind of life he lives. Listen, look at this. This is a great quote. I think he, Steph Curry, puts his head on the pillow every night and goes, man, what a great day. Is that the kind of day I have? Is that what I say to myself at night? Man, what a great day. Or do I look for reasons to complain? I'm not saying there's not things that couldn't be better. I'm not saying things shouldn't be improved. But if I'm putting in a full day, am I putting in a full day? Am I that kind of wholehearted kind of person with God? Because if I am, I think I'll be like Steph Curry. I'll be able to go to bed at night and say, man, what a great day. Isn't that the kind of day you want? Isn't that what you want to say to yourself at the end of the day? Man, what a great day. This comes from when we're wholehearted, when we wholeheartedly serve God, when we live with the knowledge that we've been forgiven. It changes everything. It changes everything. And when that happens, we can't help ourselves. We will not be able to help ourselves. It's like this scene at the end of Scrooge.
Hatchet, you're late.
Sir,
What do you mean by coming in here this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time, sir.
You are indeed. Step this way, Mr. Cratchit, please.
It's only once a year, sir. It won't be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
I'm sure you were. Well, we won't beat about the bush, my friend. I'm not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. Which leaves me no alternative but to raise your salary. I haven't taken leave of my senses, Bob. I've come to them. From now on, I want to try to help you to raise that family of yours. If you'll let me. Well, we'll talk it over later, Bob, over a bowl of hot punch. Meanwhile, you just go and put some more coal in that fire. You go straight out and buy a new coal scuttle. Yes, and you do that before you dot another I, Bob Crackit. I don't deserve to be so happy. I can't help it. I just can't help it.
That's the 1953 version. It's the best one because it was made in the year I was born. No. But that last little bit where he says, I don't deserve to be so happy. But then he says what? I can't help myself. When we're living that, when we give our lives to Christ and give that wholehearted thing, I'm not saying there won't be trouble. There's going to be trouble. But he gives an inner peace that we can do all things and we'll be able to walk through this life with peace, knowing that he is with us and that we have a place for all eternity. I was listening to an interview and they were talking to this woman. And they said, what's the one thing you've learned about life? Person's been around a while. And her answer was, God's building a home for me, and I'm looking forward to it. It wasn't about what was going on with politics. It wasn't what's going on with the price of whatever. It wasn't the disappointment or whatever's going on. It was, God's building a house for me. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And he's been working on it a while, so it's going to be great. To wholeheartedly live. When we're wholehearted with God, he will be with us. Through disappointment and fear, it's coming, pain, death. But there's a resurrection. There's another day, a day that doesn't end. That's the wholehearted love that God gives for you and for me. Yeah, Caleb loved the Lord, his God, wholeheartedly. But think about this. The God of the universe loves you wholeheartedly. And you can bank on that because he sent Christ to die for us. That's the nail that says, I can depend on that. His wholehearted love. Will we respond in wholehearted life with him? Let me pray. Our Father and our God, I thank you that you are wholeheartedly loving on us. And that was shown by sending Christ, that at just the right time he came and he died. And now coming again. So God, I pray that you would forgive us when we've been less than wholehearted, that we would make that the song of our life this week. God, make me wholehearted. Let me choose to be wholehearted. Show me, O God, how to live a wholehearted life for you. And then we won't be able to hide it or to hide the joy that you give. We are so thankful for this time of year. In Jesus' name, amen.